Hardin, and I'm 63.
All right. Where were you born?
In Grafton, West Virginia. It's a little town near Morgantown, which is basically where I grew up. Grafton's known for being the birthplace of Mother's Day. Anna Jarvis was from Grafton.
Really?
So, yeah, that's its claim to fame.
So what did your parents do?
Well, my father was a county extension agent at West Virginia University in his early years, and then later on we moved to Morgantown, West Virginia. He worked for the university there as a state extension horticulturalist. He would have been dealing with stuff like the tree poisoning
Okay.
if it had happened there.
What was school like?
Well, I went to public school all 12 years. The high school I graduated from was pretty good size. I think we had a little over 300 kids in our graduating class.
That's what like it was.
Yeah.
So, did you go to a segregated school?
No, it was the black population in Morgantown was not very large, but we certainly had black kids in our schools. It wasn't that big of an issue when I was growing up. I do remember the civil rights era and that sort of thing, but in West Virginia it was not that big. Of course, I'm looking at it from somebody who was in the majority. I'm not sure how somebody in the minority there in Morgantown might have felt about it, but I don't think it was that big of an issue as far as I know. I do recall a restaurant or two that that didn't serve blacks, but for that was really the exception, not so much the rule. So I don't think it was that big of a deal to the folks.
What kind of hobbies did you have, or what pastimes had you have?
Well, this may sound a little funny, but just having a bicycle or something like that was pretty neat. When I first got one, when I was in high school or in junior high, grade school, Mom said, you could ride around the block. And pretty soon it was, we had pretty much total freedom. We just rode wherever we want to.
Right.
The swamps and industrial areas, and places we probably shouldn't have been, but that was one of the big things that we did. And later on, of course, football and sports were big issues in West Virginia. So going to football games and following the teams and all that sort of thing was a pretty big deal.
Did you play any?
No, I wasn't much of a player. I didn't have much talent in that area, but it was certainly basketball was real big. It was Jerry West. I don't know if you remember. Yeah, it was he came out of that venue in Morgantown, so everybody followed Jerry West. And those sort of things.
You grew up in the 50s and 60s, right? During that time?
Yeah. Let's see. I was born in 47, so my memories back beyond about 55 are pretty vague. So
do you remember anything about like the Cold War or any?
Oh yeah, that was a big deal. Sputnik and that sort of thing, which I guess was around 57. And of course, I went on to all through high school, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and when I went to the university. Of course, Vietnam was going on, and I went through ROTC and then on to graduate school and was commissioned. So my whole career in the Air Force, which lasted up to about 93, was all about the Cold War and that sort of thing. So,
Era was like fear and suspicion that something might happen. Was that?
yeah, I remember when people would build bomb shelters and all that sort of stuff, but I can't, at least my parents and my immediate friends, I don't think we went around thinking that we were going to get blown away the next day or something like that. I mean, if people were aware that something like that could happen, but in some respects I think we live in a much more dangerous age today where you can be the victim of terrorism or something like that. And but it was certainly an issue, and all of our military preparation
I know you were stationed in several places. So where all did you go throughout your career?
Well, I'll give you a quick rundown. I started out at a little radar site, and I was basically in personnel, administration, education. Most of the things I did in my career. Started out at a little radar site in northern Minnesota. Then I went from there, which was one of the smallest installations in the Air Force. I went from there to one of the largest installations in the Air Force at Wright-Patterson, Ohio. There I went to Texas and worked in the Air Force Military Personnel Center there. And then from Texas I went to work in the Pentagon for about 3 years. Then I came down here to Maxwell, went to school for a year or so. And then I stayed on and worked at the Air Command and Staff College for about 3 years. Went overseas to Sicily, where I was the mission support squadron commander there for about 2 years, and then to Langley Air Force Base, Virginia. Was my last tour. Came down here and retired from the Air Force in late '93. Came down here. My daughter was going to school here at we were familiar with the area at the time I was stationed over at Maxwell. This is the base where we were stationed in Minnesota. This is the day shot of it. Night shot of it. These wrote these mugs. It's sort of an Air Force tradition, you know, wherever you were stationed, when you left, they'd give you one of these mugs. This is from first duty station in Baudette, Minnesota. And I was practically in Canada. Living there, I could look out my window and see Canada on the other side of the road. This is one from Air Force Institute of Technology when I was stationed there. And this is one from Air Command and Staff College.
So you went to West Virginia, right? What was your major?
Well, I started out in agriculture. My dad was a big ag major, and in high school I'd taken biology and that sort of thing. And so I started out in that, although I can't say my heart was really into it. I was sort of, just following sort of what my dad had done and that sort of thing. But later on, I switched my major and went into political science, government political science. So that's actually what I got my degree in. And then I went on and got a master's degree in state and local government.
How did you get interested in the military?
Well, the military got interested in me more than the other way around. Back then, all young men were subject to the draft, and so if you didn't make some kind of decision, somebody was going to make it for you. And of course, West Virginia was a land-grant school, and when I first started there, ROTC was mandatory. Everybody had to go through the first 2 years of it. And about the time I'd finished that first 2 years, it was, that's all they made you do. I didn't go on. Of course, Vietnam was going on and that sort of thing. By the time I got to my senior year, we had a college deferment and that sort of thing. But so I decided I'd like to go into graduate school